Let's fast forward 2,500 years or so from the ancient Near East to Palestine during the Crusades. Salah ad-Din at the time is the victorious Muslim ruler whose hold on his princes and on the territory is being challenged by the Crusaders from Europe and their armies. But Salah ad-Din was not only a victorious ruler and war strategist, he was also a phenomenal negotiator. Richard the Lionheart of England, someone whose name you might recall, brings his armies with him to conquer the Palestinian coastal cities of the time in the year 1191, and attempts violently to retake Jerusalem for the Crusaders and dislodge Salah ad-Din. But Salah ad-Din remained entrenched in Jerusalem there while Richard and his armies grew weaker and fractious and began fighting among themselves, while Richard longed to return home to England. In the meantime, though, Richard also tried his hand at some interesting negotiations. He sent delegations to meet with Salah ad-Din, who refused to meet with him, but became friendly with the brother of Salah ad-Din, a prince named Al-Adil. The Arab chronicler of the time, who was at the right hand of Salah ad-Din, wrote that the intention of the Faranj, the Crusaders, in sending messengers to us was primarily to probe our strong and weak points. And our aim in receiving them was exactly the same. So this tells you that negotiations at the time were not just about making deals, but they were also about intelligence gathering and attempts to get by bargaining what you cannot take by force. Richard, through his friendship with Al-Adil, proposes to Salah ad-Din that Richard's sister marry Salah ad-Din's brother Al-Adil. Now, he overlooked that his sister was already married, but that's a different problem, and that together they would rule over a joint Christian-Muslim Jerusalem. Salah ad-Din began making military alliances with Richard's associates, a prince called the Marquis Conrad, who was willing to turn against Richard. And at the same time, Salah ad-Din said yes to the proposed marriage, thinking that Richard was just making a play for time and wasn't very serious. And that was in fact the case. So these were interesting examples of not just trying to get what you can through negotiation, what you can't get through warfare, but they were also some interesting sort of back-channel deals where the rulers were going around each other and trying to make alliances with their counterparts' associates. Salah ad-Din, in any case, outweighted Richard, encouraged the military stalemate, and then he then began negotiations for a 5-year peace agreement, which Richard signed in the year 1192 so that he could get home to England. The Crusaders were permitted into Jerusalem to pray. Richard was invited by Salah ad-Din to be his guest, but Richard declined the invitation and quickly left for England without ever having laid eyes on the inside of Jerusalem. So the ancient world continues to give us interesting negotiations because we had chroniclers who were writing down what their rulers were doing at the time and reporting it as they saw it, almost in real time.